to bounce around. We'll go up, we'll go down, we'll come back, we'll go higher. Looks like 100k is the new 10k, and this is just how Bitcoin works. I want to talk to you a little bit about what separates people who retire early and people who get stuck in the system, fueling the machine. And it doesn't matter if you're a Bitcoiner or not. A lot of people fall for this, and I'm just going to share my thoughts, what I've learned over the years, and hopefully you get some value from that. If you do, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, become part of the community. We're Ireland's first Bitcoin consulting company, and we've been helping people for the last 4 years to understand Bitcoin in a really simple way, to be able to build it into their pensions, whether traditional pension or to build their own bespoke Bitcoin pension, and also to help them custody it in a way that they can't lose it and it can't be taken from them no matter what happens to them even. The first thing is where we all go wrong is, like, Bitcoin's 100k. Bitcoin is like the social media of money. So even today, 2025, I still have comments from people who followed me for 2, 3, 4 years. Okay, and they still ask the same silly questions and demand that I answer them. And sometimes I'll be a bit blunt and short, and I'll be like, I have no obligation to answer your question. You're not a customer of mine, you're not a client of mine. Had you have been, of course I would have answered it. But you followed me for 4 years, and if you haven't noticed that everything I've said has come true, and anyone who's followed our plan is 1000% better off financially. That's the figures, 1000% up. Okay, so they've outperformed every hedge fund. No pension has kept up with that. No property investor has done what all our guys have done. All right, so the first thing, the lesson in that is, you must protect your time. Your time is the most valuable thing you have, and you don't owe your time. Well, a lot of people, unfortunately, their time is owned by somebody else, and you've got to get out of that trap where someone else owns your time. All right, so in that instance, where people in the comments, I have a not unique, but I think anyone who's put himself out there, you must have a thick skin. You must be able to just discard nonsense and understand that not everyone warrants an answer. You can't speak to everyone. I run 5 businesses. There's not a hope I can respond to every text message, answer every phone call, because I'd be eating into, like, I have a lot of time, but the reason I have time is I run my time strictly. Even if I want to sit in my garden and do nothing for the day, okay, I run that strict, and I don't let anyone else steal that from me, because they don't deserve to. I worked a lot of my life to build my life in such a way that I could control my time. So that's the first thing. Be wary of your time, be wary of time vampers. Don't argue with people for the sake of just arguing, okay, because no one gets anywhere. It's just a worthless process where neither party gets anywhere. So you must learn to discard things and people, and for me, a lot of that included people in my life who were holding me back, who were negative, who didn't want me to succeed. I just had to distance myself from them or stop being in their company. And this is the thing, the more successful you become, the less friends you will have. And that's just the way it is. That's life. That's unfortunate. Not everyone is able for that or wants that or can deal with that. But your circle gets smaller and smaller. The more you push yourself, the more you put yourself out there, the harder you hustle. Your circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller, but it becomes tighter. It becomes more meaningful. It becomes more important. Okay, there's no nonsense, no fake bullshit. All right, so you cut through the nonsense. The second point is, and this is the key fact, this is where everyone goes wrong, even Bitcoiners. People are living too wealthy than where they are in the financial ladder. So in Retire Early Club, one of my courses in my Investing Fundamentals course that you get as part of the course is the financial ladder. And people are on too high a step than where their net worth and their liabilities dictate that they should be. All right, they're ahead of themselves. Now the fiat system, the money system that we all live in today, it promotes that, okay? Because, you know, it's get a mortgage, get a house, which basically means, and I'm sorry, this might step on some toes, and unfortunately, it's by having hard conversations where we grow. There's no point in patting people on the back and saying, you're a great lad. I don't believe it's the way to go. But people are encouraged to go into debt. They're encouraged to get too big a house than they deserve. They're encouraged, okay, to take on debt, and then it's like a noose around their neck for their entire life. When I was in my 20s, I recognized this, And my thing was always never have any debt. I own everything I have. I owe nobody anything. Okay? And that's a beautiful way to be, because that's freedom. Does that mean, could I own more Bitcoin? Yeah, of course I could. Okay? But someone would own me. So the thing about freedom is to get yourself out of debt as fast as possible, and don't get yourself into debt, or into as much debt. And I know a lot of our listeners probably already in the situation. Okay, but for those who aren't and thinking about it, I would say you don't need as big a house. You don't need to live in as nice an area until you're rich enough to live in that area without a massive noose around your neck. Because once you take that noose around your neck, your life, and it's going to be so hard to get out of it. And that's where everyone falls into the trap. So my story was, I lived in a caravan for a good portion of my youth. And my reasoning for that is, it wasn't that I couldn't afford to rent an apartment. I could have, but I didn't want it, because I wanted to have that capital to invest into myself, into my business, okay, into my skills, because I knew that in time it would pay off dividends, which of course it did. So rather than get the house, get too big a house, when I got a house, I bought my house. I own my house, it's my house. I didn't have to ask the bank for anything. And people say, but how could you do that, Dinny? If you invest into yourself, there's so much opportunity out there. Like, what I don't have is the willingness to want to build businesses. But I could, on this drive, think of 10 different businesses I can create to make 100 grand a year. There's so much opportunity there. Would I have thought of that if I never invested in coaching and training and surrounded myself with network groups and high performance people? No, my brain would never have gone to that level. It would have been like the typical normal level of small thinkers, which is, oh, the world is so hard, money's hard to come by, I can't do that, it's all right for them, they got lucky. You know, all this nonsense that's in our head naturally. It's just bet into us as Irish people. Right? You must get beyond all that. With the internet now, there's huge leverage in that anyone can earn any amount of money that they want, if they want. All right? And now you can't do it today, but by working on yourself and building yourself, you can make yourself work more. Because what a lot of people I find do is they're just banking on Bitcoin to solve all their problems. Bitcoin is just an investment asset. It's just a vehicle. It's going to do 50%, not financial advice, but in my opinion, it does 50% a year for the next decade, which means by owning it, you will solve your financial problems if you aggressively accumulate the bloody thing and don't lose it. However, it's going to take a decade, and will you have grown? Like, if you're already in a position where you struggle financially, you need growth in that area. You need to understand money. You need to understand your own psychology better. So by exposing you to an asset that's gonna, it's like giving someone the lotto numbers and they win the lotto. It's not gonna change their life, it's gonna make it worse, because they're gonna feck up all the money, and the money's just gonna do harmful things in their life, because they didn't grow enough to deserve the money. Because to grow enough to deserve the money, you have to create it for yourself. And that doesn't make sense, and it wouldn't make sense to me 20 years ago when I was poor as shit and struggling financially and just wanted money to solve my problems. But now that I've gone through the journey of growth and I understand it, and money, this is the other point. Most people are too rich to begin with. But the absolute irony is that you don't need as much as you think you do to live the life that you'd like. Okay? And I'll give you 2 examples of that. So although I'm retired early, I still work. I have 5 businesses. I enjoy work and I love the game. Okay? But although I'm retired early, that doesn't mean I'm super wealthy. It doesn't mean I get a brand new car every year. It means that I have enough assets, okay, that bring me income without me having to work to fund my current lifestyle. Now I'll give you 2 points on how I do that, because I've shared loads of these in the past of how I got here. But I'll just give you 2, even now where I am. My camper van is 20 years old. Could I afford a brand new one? Like, technically I could. Would I buy a brand new one? No. Why would I? Because the only difference between my 20-year-old one and a brand new one is a reg plate. My one does everything that a brand new one will do. Okay? But if I want the brand new one and the brand new reg plate, I would then not be in a position to be financially retired. I would be living beyond my means. I would be being too rich because I'm not rich enough to own that. if that makes sense. Maybe I'm not describing it correctly. Give you another example. I'm driving my Jeep here. It's a nice car, it's a Porsche. But I remember when I was looking at them, I looked at a brand new one. And I test drove it and it was beautiful. And I went home and I was thinking, yeah, I think I'll get it. I can afford the repayments because it's going to take out leverage on it. And then my brain of how I created wealth in the first place kicked in. I was like, Dinny, you're not rich enough to drive a brand new one. You need to get yourself a second-hand one. You're not rich enough, buddy. You can either work harder, which you don't like working too hard. You love having the freedom, okay? Or you can buy a second-hand one where you can afford it. It doesn't stretch it. It doesn't put you under pressure. And, you know, your income can afford it, basically. So the ability is always there to live beyond your means. It's so easy. They just want to throw money at you. That's how the fiat system traps you, okay? But what I'd say to you is, understand the more you pare your life back, the more you live per, the wealthier you can be in the future. And if you don't want to live per in the present, and you want to live above your means or at your means, you can never build for a brighter future. There's huge opportunities out there. It's lesson 1 in my retire early club on my golden rules is live below your means, and it's so important. Bitcoin is a growth asset. It's going to solve a lot of people's problems, but I think unless people actually work on themselves and upskill themselves and personally develop themselves, like, money just amplifies your problems, so it doesn't solve them in a lot of instances. I've seen that, I've found that. I've, you know, for me, my journey into Bitcoin was, you know, I really took it seriously in 2020, but, you know, I've met loads of people who were exposed to Bitcoin in 2016 when it was like £1,000 a Bitcoin. I've met people who were exposed to Bitcoin when it was £100 a Bitcoin. Some of them changed their life, some of them didn't. So it doesn't matter when you're exposed to it. It matters how you're able to deal with the exposure. I hope you get some value out of today's video. Bitcoin's 100k. It's going to be 1 million in the future. We use the volatility to retire early. That's what I do. That's what I teach. But I also help people become mature enough to be able to handle the volatility, to be able to handle you know, the change in circumstances, because the asset is time. Time is the ultimate asset. The weather's been absolutely beautiful, and I'm fortunate enough now that I live the life of my dreams. I drew this life out 15 years ago. I still have a piece of paper with a picture of how my life would be today. So it wasn't by accident. It was by hours and hours. And I'll give you one more story. I try and orange pill as many friends, family as I can. I reach out to them. You know, I'd be like, I run the Bitcoin Ireland conference. There's going to be literally 500 people at this conference now in May. It's unreal. We've 35 international speakers coming in. Some of the biggest talking heads on the planet are going to be there. And I message people, I say, come. And they say, I'm working. I'll see if I can. If I'm not working, I'll come. And you see, that's making your freedom in the future. That's not how you do it. Like, you think I didn't have to work back when I chose to fly to different countries to do internships and trainings and scholarships and go to weekends? Of course I did. I could have worked, but you give up one day of working for a potential future of freedom. And that's how it works. You've got to be prepared to do the work. You've got to be prepared to invest the time into yourself, into high quality things, if you want a high quality lifestyle. It doesn't just happen by accident. It doesn't just happen by you just happening to buy some Bitcoin and just stay the same person. You've got to grow, you've got to evolve, you've got to learn. The whole world is going to try and take your wealth from you. Your mindset's going to fuck it up unless you work on it. And that's why you are the asset. Bitcoin can solve your problems in a decade, but you can solve, but I think it takes more than that. I think it takes much more understanding. Bit abstract today. Have a super Friday. Sun's out, guns out. I'm going to do a bit of training. Have a super day, guys. Let me know what you think of that. Dinny out.